All right, a very good afternoon to everyone here. We'll get started with today's webinar. Um, just doing some final order checks. Yep, okay, let's begin. So today we will talk a little bit more about the NFP plus your manufacturing data that's coming out. And looking for the monthly setups. So we spoke a little bit yesterday about the setups for gold, setups for euro dollar as well as the DXY. So we just kind of want to keep an update on that, those three symbols. And then if we have additional time, we can look at some of the indices. Right, today's the 3rd of July, start of the month, start of the new month. My name is Shimon, and I'm an FX strategist. I specialize in technical trading, so we'll be looking quite a bit into that today. As we go along, if you have any questions, feel free to put it in the chat and we can go through them together. All right. Quick disclaimer before we begin. Trading any forms of derivatives carries significant risk. Do ensure you fully understand what you're doing before you make any trading decisions. Always start off with your demo accounts first before moving on to your live accounts. Okay, and if you're starting your live account, same thing. You have the deposit bonus, 50% additional credit for your first $1,000, and then an additional 10% for any subsequent deposits. Okay. So we're gonna use a little bit of the AI stuff to kind of look at what NFP and ISM are. Okay. But for those of you who are looking at events, you can go to the Vantage website, search for Vantage Markets, and then on the top bar, you have your economic calendar. Okay, under market analysis, economic calendar. Okay, and this is where you're going to set up your fresh account with Vantage as well. So create an account and you'll be able to gain access to your demo accounts as well as your live accounts. Okay. So the two key events that are coming up for the US, for especially for your DXY, okay, tonight we have your very important news, non-farm payrolls. You have jobless claims, so a lot of high impact news coming out. Again, non-farm payrolls tend to be on a Friday, first Friday of the month, but today we will be looking at the announcement together with um, the jobless claims. Okay. Okay, so two high impact news plus the unemployment rate expected to be kept the same, 4.2%. Non-farm payrolls expected to drop. And if we see an unemployment rate that remains the same, whereas your non-farm payrolls dips less than $100,000, 100,000 payrolls, right? Then you will kind of have the high expectations that the Federal Reserve will cut interest rates, and that will lead to a further weakening of the US dollar. Okay. The other important event that we're looking for again is at 10 o'clock. Okay, this is 10 o'clock Singapore time, but it's 10 a.m. New York time. So ISM services, again, what that is the non-manufacturing report on business. And basically, we're looking at the outlook of how the tariffs have impacted some of these businesses in the US. Okay, factory orders month-on-month for me as well. Okay, so we're going to look at mostly on the dollar pairs today. So if you have any requests for non-dollar pairs, we can do so at the end of this session. Okay. So let's head over to TradingView, and this is what we have for today. We're gonna do a little bit more of a exploration of another indicator, because I think a lot of you are already quite familiar with the pivots. We'll still go through the pivots, but another very important indicator is the stochastic RSI indicator. Okay, so if you're looking at trading the waves of a particular symbol, okay, stochastic RSI is something that you can use. Yeah, go a little bit deeper on how we're going to do that. But first, let's add the Wayne's pivot. Again, the pivot points, you can use any one of them, but we're going to just use the Wayne's pivot because you have these key areas highlighted. Okay, let's go to the daily and just see what that monthly profile is like. Okay, so as I've explained earlier, okay, you want to make sure that the bars are aligned with the boxes because sometimes they fall out of line. Okay, so this is a little bit out of whack. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the time frame to 1 month, and instead of looking at daily, I'm just going to go to the 4 hourly. Okay, so this gives me a more accurate start for the month. Okay, generally for gold, we are bullish, but where are we bullish? We're bullish above this key level here. Okay. So why are we bullish above this key level? Okay, because it broke above R2 and it closed above R2 in this area here. So whenever this happens, then that sets the tone for us, and we want to use this area as a key support area. Okay. So we've been ranging between M2 and M2 and M3 in the month of May. Same thing in the month of June. We did push up a little bit above M2 into R1, but came back down. So unless we break above M3, okay, we break above M3, okay, this is actually the key selling zone for us. Okay. Why? Because we are looking for buys, but we are expecting buys to be somewhere around this level. Okay, so we are quite a long way in the overbought region right now. So M3 pivot is the area in which we are looking to sell, and we are looking to target M1, S2. Okay, so how do we actually look at the cadence of these waves, right? So using the stochastic RSI versus say something like the RSI, let's quickly go through what are the key differences. Okay, so RSI is this purple and yellow line here, and yellow line is the average of the RSI line. Okay, so you can kind of see that whenever you are in a strong uptrend, you tend not to get a lot of oversold regions, which is pretty uh, so in an uptrend, you want to find opportunities to buy, but if an indicator is not is a direct derivative of the price action itself, then you see very little signals that's coming below the 30 points for you to actually sell. So in other words, in a layman terms, it needs to move down in a stronger move before you get a buy signal. Okay. However, if you're using the stochastic RSI, which is this indicator on above here, right? Because this is calculating the RSI of the stochastic calculation, so you're doing a second order derivative, right? You get a sine wave or a wave that is more consistent with the cadence of the ups and downs of the price action, right? So you can see from the month of April all the way to the end of June, you don't really see a lot of oversold signals, right? Whereas for the RSI, you get many of these. Okay, so essentially what you can measure on the falls at least is how long did it take from it to go from an overbought level to an oversold level, right? So that is kind of like the cadence, and from the overbought region, how long does it take to come back up to the second overbought region? Okay, so as we move along, you can see that every overbought region from the mid of June, we were creating lower highs, and this is the first time that the high has been broken. Okay, so the high has been broken here, which means that we will be looking for, on the lower time frame, hopefully, okay, where would be the lower bound of this range? The lower bound of this range would be at this crossover here, which is this low here. So this is the entirety of the range, okay, and we are trying to look for an entry to re-enter a buy somewhere along this range on this level here. And as and when on the 4 hours, the stochastic RSI falls below into the oversold region without breaking this low, that is our kind of entry that we're looking for. Okay. Okay, so this is on the higher time frame. We're still between M3 and M2 for this month, so we have no clear indication where gold is moving. But ideally, we want, because of this break of the previous high, we want price to come back down nicely into this area here again, giving us that discount that was missed out by the second wave of buyers. And if we do come back into this area, we're looking for a higher high and then a move to the upside. Okay, you can calculate one entire move here. It's about a week, so we can expect this entire move here to be uh, to play out over the next week or so. Okay, so let's look at the 1 hour, and then we can continue to use this analysis for the lower time frames. All right, so same thing. This was the high. Okay, this was the last end of the high. Okay, you can see all of these lows that were created, right? This created a higher high, which gives a signal actually to buy here, but it fell short before moving down to a lower end. Okay, so this is still maintained as our 4 hours low. But as you go higher into this week's, the start of this week on Monday, you can see the highest point was in this area here. Okay, so if we are looking to go higher, we want to break this high, in which we have done so towards the end of yesterday, right? So we have broken this high. So essentially, this low here is going to be a sort of like a protected low, because given that the analysis that we have done, that the highs were all taken out, okay, this is going to be a low that will be protected. Okay, so this was the morning low, right? So ideally what we want to see is we want to see price not break below this red dotted line, which is also today's M2. And if we can come back down into this area and it moves higher, okay, this will be our target for today. Yesterday we talked about the target. I think the target that we saw yesterday was 3383. Okay, we didn't quite get that buy up because it was the New York session. We only had one session to actually double the movement that we saw yesterday. So this was kind of hard for us to actually achieve yesterday, but we did break this high. Okay, so the continuation of this uptrend is most likely going to happen once we come down to an auto block, and we need to look at the key prices here, which is this entire area here is going to be our last level of support, which means that you can take the price and entry anywhere along this movement upwards, okay? But your stops got to be below. So if you are a trader somewhere looking to enter here, okay, or if you, I mean, the fixed point will be your stop loss. Your stop loss has to be below this key level here, okay? And what you want to target is you want to target at least 1:3. And if 1:3, if you enter around this, excuse me, if you enter around this white line here, then your target will be 1:3. Okay. But if you are a more conservative trader and you're looking to enter to target this high here, your entry might have to be pulled back a little bit somewhere around this higher low here. Okay, again, this level was not taken, so if your target is this high, okay, this would have been your entry. Cool. So that is how we can actually use your stochastic RSI. And again, you just want to confirm, okay, the previous two lows, okay, three lows and four lows. Okay, the fifth low here was created up here and it failed to make a higher high. And so as it comes down into this area here, this was actually a bearish move. And therefore, as it comes back up here, this is the protected high, and we did had a 1:1 sell-off. But do bear in mind that this here gave us a clear indication that this was the sweep. And because this high created that higher high, and as it comes back down, you can see that this low is already protected by. That means all of the buyers here, right, are supporting this area strongly, and no sellers were able to push it past this line anymore. Okay, so with this move to the upside overnight, as it comes back down, this is going to be protected. And again, as it comes back down, this is going to be protected. So bear in mind two things, because this is NFP, and what we have been creating is a higher high, higher low, but a lower high on this. So we'll probably be looking at a case where we are going to triangulate to the NFP, and the breakout will give us the indication of where prices are going to move. Okay, so when I say triangulation, this will mean that sellers are taking their profits short, buyers are taking their profits short, and then you wait for the breakout before moving in the direction of the breakout. Okay, but this is going to be protected, and again, this high here this high is a weak high, right? But it is protected by this afternoon's move. So a lot of contemplation here before it starts to break down. So we'll probably be looking at this area here as a buy up, back up into this area here. Okay, of course you can go down to that lower time frame again, just to confirm where that low is. So that low is this low. So if you go down to the 5 minutes, then you would have already, okay, this was the breakout. So you will probably be seeing this entire area here as your near-term support. Okay, so we will probably be expecting this and then up again and then down before breaking up or breaking down. Okay. I'm just going to put the triangles here so that we can revisit this again next week. Cool. So DXY, I think we mentioned that yesterday, so really want to go through that quickly. Well, Vantage is USDX, right? So US dollar index. Okay. So I'm not going to go through step by step what we were thinking, but this was the idea yesterday. Monday's high, we were targeting this Monday's high. Okay, so it kind of, if you draw this accurately, so what was missed yesterday, okay, this was during yesterday's webinar. It shot up and it did not quite hit this order block here. So it came back down, pushed up, and it tapped into this area before it came back down. So what I was saying is that because of this huge to the movement to the upside, and on the 50 minutes, it looks like the 50% was going to be taken. Okay, what we were actually looking for also was for this level to be broken. Okay, this last 15 minutes, and you want to see if this 15 minutes coincides with the hour. Okay, so this was, if you adjust it to the hour, okay, this was the last downward candle before the spike up for the news. Okay, so as it comes back up, this is where it lands. So same thing, what you want to do is you want to look at the cadence of the waves of the dollar index, right? And what wave are we on right now? So this was the higher high, higher high. This is going to be our protected low. Okay, protected low. Okay, so in this case, usually when you see something like this where higher high and then it comes down lower, right? You have such a big gap below. You usually want to go down to the lower time frame to see what that wave is. Okay, so just quickly look at on the 4 hours. Okay, the 4 hours we are still bearish because this low is higher than this low, and therefore this high. Okay, we are looking for sells at every high. So this was the sell point. We are probably wanting to see something like this to the downside. Okay, this is on the higher time frame. Okay, let me just repeat. I think some people were quite confused on what we're doing. Okay, so you can see the price coming down, and you see every low that was created. Okay, the matching price to this low is getting lower and lower, then lower, right? So as it comes back up, we are expecting all of these highs to be protected. So what I mean by that, this high is protected, this high is protected, and then this high is protected, which it tapped in, and then it's probably going to be moving to the downside. Now, if it comes back down to this red line and it bounces off from there, then we can see that a low has been created, a double bottom has been created, and it's moving up towards the upside, in which we'll switch our sells from sells to buy. Okay, so 1 hour, again, this red dot here is the protected low. Okay, and then as you go down to the 50 minutes, then you can see a little bit clearer on what that wave is going to look like for us. Okay, so a bit jiggery here, like so. Basically, this entire thing you can consider it as a high. Okay, and as it comes back up to this level, we broke above this high. Okay, and coming back up here. So again, this is quite expected of NFP news. Okay, so same thing, you're probably going to see a range of oil triangle forming, and then either it breaks down or breaks up during the news. All right. So ideally, we want to see a break below. Okay, up first to this high, down, down, and then break below this low. And then we'll be targeting the weekly M1, S2. Okay, euro dollar. Okay, so 4 hours, we want to look for the range they're dealing with. This was the low, this was the higher low, right? You can see this low here created, and then this low here created. This high was a higher high from here. So 4 hours wise, we are looking to move to the upside here, right? So then we want to go down to the low time frame and see what that means for us. Okay, so this is a low, and we are waiting for a higher low to be created. Okay, so what would that likely scenario be? So protected lows will be around this area here. You want price to come down here, and as it comes down into this region, this stochastic RSI, you want it to complete a move to the downside, right? And then give us this move to that daily pivot. Okay, same thing. This will be your pivot M3, M2. And is this okay? Yeah. So the midpoint here, you will probably enter around in the middle here, but your stops has to be below this, the lowest point of your previous oversold region. And if you were to target this area here, okay, this is actually quite a bad RR. So you'll probably want to come in, let price come in to the bottom of this gap for you to get a solid 1:3 RR. Okay. So what are we looking for on the lower time frames? Okay, so this is kind of like the setup for NFP today. You can see this the lows created a lower low, right? And then your highs created a lower high. And both of these were in the overbought region. So go down that 5 minutes, then you'll see much clearer where was that protected high. So this area here, okay, this was broken. So essentially, if price do come back up to this level, you want it to be in a cadence where this will create the new overbought region, and then you move to the downside. So this is the pre-New York, pre-NFP, and then hopefully by then when it comes into here, it taps into this area and then it shoots up. So what was the point in time where players miss the entry? It would have been this area here, right? Why? Because this was a triangle, 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 and it shot up. Sellers came in trying to sell it down again, and then they got stopped out, right? So this entire area is caused by your stops. So this is going to be a void zone for sellers, in which if you're going to buy here, anything below, you put your sell stops, you will be the only group of sellers in that area. Cool. So that is the Euro-dollar plan for today. Okay. Do you guys have any questions before we end off the webinar? So cool. We kind of looked through the three key things that we were looking for yesterday. Yeah, we did not look at indices, so we kind of want to look at that as well. 853. Whoa, Coco dropped tremendously. Crazy dropped for Coco. All right, let's look at indices. USD 500. Okay, this will be your S&P 500. Oh, there's no Vantage for this S&P 500. Vantage. All right. So same thing, you're gonna look at the cadence. Okay, where was the last low? The last low was actually here, and then this was your last low. Okay, and we were creating high highs, high highs. So overall, this is going to be kind of like, we do not want this to break, and prices will continue to go up, right? So this will be your last point of contact on the 1 hour. Last available sell. Okay. So yesterday we came up until about yesterday. Okay, so yesterday there was a quick sell Tuesday, Monday, Tuesday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And so Wednesday was up and then came down 8 o'clock. And then the New York session was just all the way up. Okay. So ideally you want to see You want to get back into this area here. You want to look for the gap in which your sellers failed. Okay, this was the bullish 1 hour bar that wiped out a lot of people. All right, so ideally coming back down here, and this is your protected low. So if you are looking at this entire range as your entry, you'll do something like this. Your stop's got to be below yesterday's low, and your highs will be targeting today's high. And you want to readjust this until you get 1:3. So somewhere around here, which is the start of this candle, okay, it's where you would probably want to enter. But again, this is a quick break, so you want to see this move get weak. So you getting quick, and then prices push up due to the news, and then you will have you'll see the target hit within by the end of the 10 a.m. candle. Okay, cool. Yep. I think that's all I have for you guys today. I'll just stick around for any more questions. I see a lot of people commenting on the chat, but it's a lot of non-related messages. So I'm trying to see if there are anyone that is asking any questions. But otherwise, nonetheless, right? I'll just put down the links. You can scan this QR code. I'll leave it up here at the end. You can scan this QR code to start your live account with Vantage. And then if you're interested in any of the past analysis, you can visit this website. Okay, Vantage Markets website /academy/live. All right, my name is Sherman. If you have any questions, you can email support@vantagemarkets.com. All right. Otherwise, all the best to the upcoming trading session, and then I will see you guys again next week. Cool. That's all for today then. Tomorrow's a US holiday, so there won't be much trading happening. So we will review this analysis again next week. So till then, all the best.